everybody! So today is Sunday, and that means it's time for family movie night, and this week I thought I would talk about a Disney classic, and one that I don't think gets quite enough credit as it deserves. We are going to be talking about Pollyanna, and this 1960 film that I think is actually the perfect movie to watch this week. The reason why I thought about it is that we have the Inauguration coming up this week, and I thought it would be a great choice for a lot of reasons. And I think the thing about this movie is that it's easy to do what some of the characters do to Pollyanna, to the movie itself, and think, oh, it's just a movie about being happy when everybody is sad and just being like fake but that's really not what the movie is about. And a lot of people treat Pollyanna that way when she is talking about the glad texts or the glad games.
My father wrote to the missionary people and asked them to please send a little second-hand doll. Well, it was a funny mistake. When the missionary bells came, instead of a doll, they sent a pair of crutches. Well, of course I was rather disappointed, so my father made up the glad game.
The what game?
She's been pestering folks all over town with this sunshine and happiness thing. Hearts and flowers, enough to make you sick.
Hush up, I want to hear it.
It's interesting because Pollyanna is an orphan. It's similar in some ways to Anne Green Gables, and Anne Green Gables uses her imagination to help her get through these horrible times, these horrible experiences. Pollyanna looks at the positivity that's around her and trying to find the good in situations. But this does not mean that she is being superficial, or that she is being fake, or that she is being annoying, in my opinion. It's that she is trying to cope in a positive way and looking for the good in the world, but she's not acknowledging the bad. Those things are still there.
I played the game, and after a while, I forgot about the doll and being gloomy. And you know what? I found a reason for being glad.
Well, there's nothing happy about a pair of crutches.
Well, we were glad that we didn't have to use them.
Why must you bedevil this poor dying woman with your childish, silly little stories?
I just thought you could play the game. You could be glad you don't need this horrid old coffin. You could help others by making the patchwork quilt for the orphans if you wanted. You ought to forget about dying and be glad you're living.
But she is trying to see the world in a different lens, through a different view. And I think that that's really positive. And I think it's easy with this election to look at it through these doom and gloom, horrible, everything's going to be awful kind of lenses. And I think if you do that with your kids, then I think that they are going to feed off that negativity, and it's not going to be good for them. It's going to make them feel insecure. It's going to make them feel sad. It's going to make them feel worried. And there is much to be positive about. That doesn't mean that you lie. It doesn't mean that you gloss over your concerns, but it doesn't mean that you don't try to find the positive as well. And I think that there's actually a lot of power behind that. And if you look at Pollyanna, the way that her positivity is also coupled with service. And I think that's one thing that maybe gets missed sometimes, is that she isn't just positive with Mrs. Snow. She goes and she visits her, and she shows love for her. And she actually is willing to have people be her friends that other people just immediately dismiss and don't like.
What are you doing back here?
Oh, just came to say hello. Tell you something about your prisms.
Well, what about them?
Well, aren't you going to invite me in?
Invite you in? No more privacy than a goldfish.
Oh, my goodness. Look.
Yeah. Look, see over here.
Boy, look on
In
the
there.
door.
Shut the door outside. Kids, you see?
Whoa.
Look.
Oh, it's gorgeous. The most beautiful room in the entire world.
Not bad, is it? It's
Not bad at all.
Shows that she has action behind her positivity, that it's not just words, whether it's Mr. Pendergrass, whether it's whoever it might be, that she goes and she visits and she befriends and she really loves. And I think that that's what makes her character really special, is that it's not just fluffy words, it's actual love and kindness. And that's something that we can certainly use a lot more of these days. And I think my favorite part in the film is the relationship between her and the Reverend. And played brilliantly by Carl Malden, one of my favorite actors ever. Like, he is just unbelievable. And he's great in this. He plays this Reverend who believes that fire and damnation is the way to get through to people, and to sort of scare them on Sunday, and hopefully they'll be good the rest of the week. But all it does is make people feel ostracized from God. It makes them feel that God is somebody they can't talk to, somebody that doesn't care about them.
In God's mighty wrath, great mountains cannot stand before this wrath. Yea, he can lay the earth to pieces in one moment, or shatter the whole universe with one stroke of his fiery sword. How dreadful is the state of those who are in daily danger of this great wrath, this abyss of death and despair.
He is frustrated because he's not seemed to be able to be getting through to his congregation. Well, that's when Pollyanna tells him about the glad texts and how her father counted 800 happy texts in the Bible.
Father called them the glad passages. You know, the happy ones, like shout for joy, or be glad in the Lord. You know, like that. There are 800 happy texts. Did you know that?
No, I didn't know that.
Yes, well, there are. And you know, my father said, if God took the trouble to tell us 800 times to be glad and rejoice, he must have wanted us to do it.
He really has this change on him, and he has this sort of testimony moment where he realizes that he has been wrong. And his speech before the congregation is so beautiful when he asks for their forgiveness. And I think that that's something that we also need to remember, is that we're all on this growth cycle together. We're all learning. None of us are perfect, and we need that positivity, but we also need that forgiveness and that love, and that's how we get through all of this madness that is life and everything else, and so I think that's another benefit that you can take away from this movie that could be helpful during this election season, is to not hold a grudge, to learn and to talk to each other, and try to, if you are going to change someone's perspective, like the Pollyanna does with the Reverend, she doesn't tell him that he is wrong, because he's not really. Like, there is some value in what he's doing. It's just he's going about it the wrong way. And so Pollyanna talks to him about her view and her perspective, and then he realizes that he was wrong, and that in the way that he was doing it, and that he needs to change. And that's how you get people to really change, is that I think is powerful in Pollyanna, that could be useful during this election, this inauguration time, is that it's actually a movie about civic engagement. And you have the rich woman who runs the town, who everybody kowtows to, and yet there's this small group that meets together and decides to throw this bazaar, and they have this joyous time together, and they decide they're not going to let one person rule and dictate the things from this town. And so I think there's a lesson there to be learned as well. That the answer to, if we don't like the sort of the top dog in charge, then we need to become civically engaged, and we need to speak out, and we need to become involved, and we need to gather people together, and not to be mean, and not to but just to find joy together, and serve together, and that there's power in that. And because what they're trying to do is to help this orphanage, and so I don't know, I think there's a lesson to be learned there. that the movie builds really well until the end, when the tragedy happens with Pollyanna. It's just really devastating, and it finally breaks her spirit, and I love it. I think Haley Mills is tremendous in the role. I love Jane Wyman as Aunt Polly. I think she's just prickly enough, but not too much, that you know there is softness underneath there. All the other roles I really enjoy, and it's funny and sweet, and it's just, I think, a really, really touching movie about how goodness and kindness can win the day, and that we should all try to see things from a more positive point of view. So that's why I think Pollyanna is the perfect choice for family movie night the week of this inauguration. So let me know what you think of Pollyanna. Do you like it, not like it? Where are you at on it? And thanks so much. Please subscribe to my channel, and I'll talk to you later. Bye!